All right, welcome everyone. First of all, I'm sorry it's been a really long time I uploaded any video. I had some health issues, so I couldn't make that happen. Um, let's get started. The today's video is about top five most commonly asked interview questions for SOC analyst role. Okay, we are going to cover five interview question, and I'm going to go in detail about it, and these questions are very basics, but most of the time these are ignored by the candidate. Okay, so make sure you are well prepared with all these five questions. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the very first question is, what is TCP IP three-way handshake? Okay, so let's understand first. Okay, whenever and remember, this is the very common type of interview question. TCP three-way handshake can be explained this way. Okay, in TCP three-way handshake, the client machine send the request to the server machine. Okay, let me explain you with the diagram. Okay, so you have a client machine here. Okay, and this your server, right? Now this can be google.com, microsoft.com, any server. So if when we talk about TCP is a connection oriented protocol. That means before it you can send any traffic in the client server model or TCP protocol, you have to establish a session. Okay, and this session is TCP three-way handshake. In this case, basically the client machine send the first packet, okay, TCP packet, by keeping the SYN flag set. SYN is synchronization. Okay, this is TCP flag. There are around six flags under TCP header. Okay, so TCP is like a request message saying that saying that, okay, hey google.com, listen, I want to talk to you. Google.com received that, and it acknowledge the google.com, the server acknowledge it, means it will set the acknowledge flag on the TCP, and it also add its own SYN flag. That means Google also says, yes, I acknowledge, I'm also ready to talk to you. Okay, and finally the client send the acknowledgement to the SYN flag which was sent earlier. So finally the ACK message is sent. So this SYNAC and ACK completes the three-way handshake. Okay, so this is the TCP three-way handshake. Once it is completed, then only your actual data transfer can begin. All right, so this is TCP three-way handshake. All right, so now let's move to the next question, next very commonly asked question, and that's, what is OSI model? Okay, remember, while explaining about OSI model, you have to cover all the different examples of different protocol. Okay, so basically OSI model is a seven layers. Okay, it's a framework. Someone may say, okay, it's a concept, it's a theory. Yes, it's a theory, but it derives how two computers in the internet, or maybe in the any LAN network, should talk to each other. Okay, it's like a protocol, it's like a set of rules. Okay, in there are seven layers: one, two, three, four, five, six, and seven. Okay, the very bottom level layer is called physical layer. Okay, technically we should start from the top, but to explain in the interview, you should start from the physical layer. So you can say a physical layer is all about the raw data in the physical medium, like cable, fiber cable, copper cable, all the devices and everything. Okay, then we have data link layer, which is layer 2. Okay, data link layer is all about ensuring that there's an error free transmission or transfer of a data between two devices. So this is where the information is forwarded in the form of frames. Okay, in the form of frames. And this all forwarding is carried out by switches. Okay, is carried out by switches, and this is done based on the MAC address. Okay, MAC address is like physical address of the devices. So switch is responsible for forwarding the information in the form of frame using MAC address, and this is all happen on the layer 2. Okay, in the similar way, the third layer, which is called network layer, this is where information is recognized as a packet. Okay, you remember I told you on the layer 2 the information is recognized as frames. Layer 3, the information is recognized as packet, and this is the information is forwarded by using the router. And how? By using the IP address. Okay, so what happened is on the layer 3, the information is forwarded in the form of packet, and router is responsible for forwarding that. And whenever the information comes in, whenever a packet comes into the router look at its routing table, and based on the routing table it will forward that packet to the next hop. For example, in case of your home network, you might want to reach out to google.com or to the internet. Router sits in between. It looks at the routing table, and if the routing table says, okay, you need if someone want to access the internet, this is where you need to send the traffic to. So your router will send it to the service provider, and from your service provider it might go to the another service provider, right? Next we have transport layer. Now, this is where the delivery method is decided, how the data should be transmitted. Do you need an guaranteed delivery? Do you need a reliable communication, or unreliable communication? Do you need flow control or error recovery, congestion control? So it's all decided. Well, you may wonder, I mean, why should we go for unreliable communication? We should always have a reliable communication. Well, that's not true always. Let me give you context. If you want to go for a reliable communication, you choose TCP protocol. If you want to go for unreliable communication, you go for UDP. Well, you use TCP when you want to have a guaranteed delivery. TCP is connection oriented. Okay, so whenever you want to have a one-to-one communication, you want acknowledgement for every packet. You remember we talked about acknowledgement in the TCP three-way handshake as well, right? So a TCP ensures that there is an acknowledgement for every packet. If any machine don't get the acknowledgement, it will keep retransmitting it. Okay, but UDP, there is no such case. There's no acknowledgement. There's no connection oriented. There's no TCP three-way handshake. You may think, okay, then why we should really use UDP? Well, if you see TCP is expecting acknowledgement, that means it can be slower as well, right? It is slow. It is secure, but it is slow. On the other hand, if we have a very latency sensitive traffic like voice, for voice is very sensitive, susceptible to latency. So in those situations we use UDP. Let's say we want to broadcast certain message, we can use UDP because we don't want to have an acknowledgement from anyone, right? So for broadcast message, for voice traffic, where the latency matters a lot, let's say we don't want acknowledgement in case of broadcast, we can use UDP. For transactional message, we can use UDP, right? So there are use cases for both the protocol. um, STTP is very important because every information is important. That's why we use TCP for STTP. We use 443 port for STTP HTTPS, right? So next we have session layer, and yes, this is layer 4. Then layer 5 is session layer. Session layer is responsible for managing the session connections, session setup, termination, management, everything. Okay. Next we have presentation layer. Presentation layer. Presentation layer is responsible for data formats, is responsible for encoding, decoding, encryption, decryption, like for the SSL handshake and everything. So this is all happen on the presentation layer. Finally, we have seventh layer, which is application layer, right? So this is where the actual user interact. Okay, so let's say you as a user having a computer. So this is where you interact directly, and this is where protocol like HTTP, SMTP really works. Okay, FTP, DNS, all of them works directly here, and user directly interact here. Okay, so this is what the OSI model really looks like. Okay, you can summarize this answer and talk accordingly during the interview. From the interviewer's point of view, I mean, he want to listen all these key points like cable, frame, switch, MAC address, which device works on which layer, like routers, IP address, TCP, UDP, session, application layer. So this becomes very important. Remember, talking about transport layer in detail and talking about network layer in detail is must. So you should never skip that point. Okay, so this is about the question number 2. Now let's move to the question number 3, which is what is CIA triad. Okay, now CIA triad is again a very commonly asked interview questions. um, CI triad can be explained in this way. Okay, sorry. Yeah, this is triangle. There's a CIA. Okay, basically, CI tried. It's a framework for cybersecurity domain, where C stands for confidentiality. I stand for integrity. Sorry, A stand for availability. Okay. So confidentiality is all about protecting the sensitive information from any unauthorized access. Or in other word, you can say confidentiality is all about an effort to prevent any unauthorized access to the network, right? Integrity is all about preventing any unauthorized modification or changes or tampering in the network, right? Availability is all about making your data is available 100% of the time. Okay, so if you are listening to me properly, I'm saying it's an effort. That means it's a kind of goal for every organization. So that means if you are successful in preventing any unauthorized access to your data, probably all the time in a year, so that means you are 100% in confidentiality. If you are successful in preventing unauthorized modification to your data 100% of the time in a year, so you are 100% at integrity. So similar goes for availability as well, right? So there are different techniques to ensure that your data is uh, or you are good at confidentiality. First, implementing the encryption. Okay, making sure you have end-to-end encryption. Okay, that's of one thing, so that there's nobody else who can listen to data or modify anything in between. Second is the access control. Okay, so access control is a solution which ensures that only authorized people or person can access to your network. Second is the integrity. Now integrity can be achieved better by using different technique like hashing, right? Hashing is a method where you create a kind of a cipher suite. You create a cipher number or a hash value, so that if that get alter, you get to know that there's something which is modified, right? The another option is using digital certificate as well. Now digital certificate is also a very important point for authentication and making sure you are talking to an authorized party and nothing has been modified in between, so you maintain the integrity of the data with that, right? Availability can be achieved by making sure you have a better security solutions like antivirus solutions, so that an attack like ransomware can be, or any malware attack can be you know prevented, right? Second, you have to make sure you have a proper backup. So let's say there's a there's sort of a disaster, storm, or any natural calamity happen, you should be in a good shape, or maybe redundancy, high availability, disaster recovery site, and everything. So this is all about CIA Triad. All right. So you can summarize this while you talk to the interviewer. Okay. Next, question number 4 is the difference between encryption and hashing. Okay. We just now talked about both of them, but this is individually and very important questions as well, right? So let's talk about encryption. Now, encryption is basically it's all about converting a plain data. Okay, you have a plain data. It's all about converting into a random it's into a random data called ciphertext to protect it from the unauthorized access. Now this is reversible. If let's say this is a person A, he can encrypt this data and this data become encrypted, right? Or ciphertext. Okay, this data become encrypted, or we called it as cipher text. Now, on the person on the other side can actually decrypt the data back, and can see the same plain text, right? So that's called encryption. The purpose is to make sure only authorized person can see the message. For example, you can see on your WhatsApp message, right? So when you start talking to someone, or you call someone on the WhatsApp, you see a message saying that end to end encrypted. You can also verify by using the key. What is key? Basically, the key is actually used here to encrypt the data or to decrypt the data back. So this key has to be there. Key is used to encrypt the data and also to decrypt it back. Okay, there are different ways. There can be a symmetric key or asymmetric key. In case of symmetric key, the same key is used for encryption and decryption. But as you can guess, if you use the same key, it can also be compromised. So asymmetric key is where we use a public and private key, where you can use public key of party B. Every party, let's A, will be having a public key and private key. Okay, and B will be having a public key and private key. Okay, so if A want to send an encrypted data to B, it will use the B's public key to encrypt the data, and once the B get the data, it can use its private key to decrypt it back. Okay, so that's how the asymmetric key really works. Okay, that's how the entire internet really works. Okay, so there are different kind of encryption as well. The way encryption functions really work, that can be AES encryption. We call it as advanced encryption standard. This is used for VPN. There's AES 256, AES 128 as well. 256 is widely used. Then there is RSA. This is also an encryption algorithm. This is again uses asymmetric key encryption for data transmission. All the SSL, TLS, digital certificate use that. Then there's a DES encryption as well, which is an older encryption, um, which can be used for bulk of data, or it's no longer used in a way. Okay, so this is encryption. This is reversible. Remember, you can encrypt the data and you can decrypt it back. Okay, so this is called an encryption. Now let's talk about the hashing. Now, hashing is basically uh, taking a plain text and converting into I can't say a ciphertext or encrypted message, but you can say a hash value, or you can say a digest. Okay, It's a fixed length size, let's say 128 or 256 bit of a value. So this will be like this. Okay, a fixed length value. So irrespective of whether it's a text data or image or video or GBs of a data, or in fact your entire computer, with the help of hashing, it will create a single fixed length size digest. Okay, and that's called hash value. Now what's the benefit? It's irreversible, so you can't get the actual data back. It sounds weird, right? Why would someone do that? Well, the benefit is there are multiple use cases of it. First, for the first use case is, um, in case, let's say, you want to store some data and you don't want to retrieve it. For example, let's say there's a website. For example, LinkedIn itself. Let's consider a LinkedIn. You enter your username and password, right? And probably on a specific day or maybe any random day, you get a news that okay, all the LinkedIn username and password got compromised. Change your password immediately. What usually happen is only your username get compromised, your password never get compromised, because LinkedIn store the username as it is, but it actually store the hash value of the password. So even if the hacker get the database of the user and password, he can only see the username of the database, but he will not get the actual password because it is irreversible. So it from the from the security point of view, it has a lot of value, because you will not get the actual password. You won't be able to retrieve the actual password, right? So that's where it becomes very important for checksum. It is even used in the blockchain as well, where you can actually store tons of transaction metadata into a fixed length size. Okay, so that way it becomes very easy to track any transaction in the tons of data. So there are different algorithm which is available. There's SHA-256, which is very popular. There's MD5 hash as well. SHA-256 is widely used for multiple purpose like digital certificate and Bitcoin blockchain as well. All right. So this is hashing. Let's talk about the fifth and the final question. This is also a widely asked and commonly asked question. What is DDoS attack? Right. Okay. So DDoS attack is an attack. Uh, the full form is a denial of service attack. So in this, what happened is, uh, multiple compromised machine. Okay, compromised machine by a hacker actually compromise multiple machine. Okay, this can be in an innocent machine or compromised machine or hacker's own machine, and they launch multiple connection. These are all fake requests to a target machine, to a victim machine or victim server, basically victim server. And these fake traffic are so huge in quantity, that the server get engaged in serving those fake traffic in such a way that it won't be able to serve any genuine request. It won't be able to serve any genuine request, so it will start dropping all the genuine requests. So this is called denial of service. This is an attack. Okay, and when the attack is launched from multiple machines spread across globally, this is called distributed denial of service attack. Okay, so this is called DDoS attack in a way, right? So, and these machines are called botnet, because these are bot controlled by the hacker. Okay, so now the next point is how to mitigate such attack. Okay, so you can be precise. This can be asked to a fresher. Even if you're a fresher, interviewer can ask this question. So there are multiple mitigation technique. First technique is to use traffic filtering or rate limiting option. So you can actually implement a rate limiter, use firewall, router, IPS to block, illegitimate traffic, or apply sort of a rate limit solution to bring down the overall amount of traffic. The most popular solution is to use WAF or solutions like anti-DDoS protection solutions like Cloudflare or Akamai or Imperva, okay, AWS Shield. These are popular solution which they have a scrambling servers. So whenever a victim get compromised, they actually sits between the users and the server itself, like this. So whenever the system, this anti DDoS solutions detects any possible DDoS attack, it will start taking the traffic in their backhaul, and they send it to their scrambling server. They clean the traffic and they only send the clean traffic to the server. Rest everything they will actually drop. Okay, so that's the benefit of using the anti DDoS solution. So every organization who has any web application in the network, they use it. Okay, so that's one solution, anti-DDoS or web application firewall. Okay. Third kind of solution is using the geo blocking. If you have an access and you know there is more and more traffic coming in, because this might take for any solution provider or any anti DDoS like WAF solution to take into effect, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes. In meanwhile, you can manually check all the IP addresses, because there can be tons of thousands of IP address, right? But you can filter out all the traffic based on the amount of traffic that they are sending, and then you can block them, or maybe you can block them regionally, right? So you know that you don't have any genuine, or you don't have any customers in China or maybe in Russia, so you can block all those traffic. So that's a one way of handling it as well, right? You can also use load balancer, you can use IDS to monitor the traffic, right? So these are some of the major mitigation techniques that can be used for stopping DDoS attack or protecting from DDoS attack. All right, so I hope this was useful. We'll catch you in the next video.